Back again on the Sports Zone. I am Mike Aglialoro. Once again, thanks to everyone who subscribed to the YouTube channel Mike Ags121. Don't forget to subscribe under the video if you haven't done so, and check us out on thisissportszone.com for more. And once again, I do apologize for coming late this week. Hopefully you guys get to see this before you set your lineup. We are coming off of a down week last week. We went 4-6. We are now even 36-36 on the season so far. So we're going to try to get it right once again. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. We're going to start with Eli Manning of the New York Giants going against the Indianapolis Colts in New Jersey. And you got Mike Glennon of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. I like them both. I think they're both good, cheap options. You get Eli at 7,200, Mike Glennon at 6,500. Glennon I like personally. I have him on my keeper league, so I'm a little invested in him. I do think he's going to get better as the weeks go on this season. He had a decent showing last week. Nothing spectacular, but solid against the Minnesota Vikings. This week he goes up against the Browns defense. Browns defense is not exactly a juggernaut. And as for Eli Manning, everyone is predicting the Colts to pound the Giants at MetLife Stadium. I don't really think it's going to be an outright blowout. I think it's going to be a bit of a high-scoring game. I think there's going to be a shootout atmosphere there. And I think Eli is going to come off very well. I do think the Colts are going to win in the end, but I think Eli is going to be good for at least 3 touchdowns. He's coming off the bye week. You know he's used that time to prepare and gel a little bit more with his wide receivers. Odell Beckham Jr. in particular, who's still only playing in his 3rd professional game. So look for that duo to hook up quite a bit on Sunday's game against the Colts. We'll move on to the running backs. I like Jerick McKinnon of the Minnesota Vikings going against the Washington Redskins, and Denard Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. Both priced in the 6,000s. McKinnon at 6,300, Robinson at 6,700. Robinson got over 100 yards last week, and he's getting the majority of the carries for the Jaguars. And the Bengals are not exactly stopping anyone in the run game. So I look for him to top 100 yards again. McKinnon is getting better and better as the weeks go on. Had another solid showing last week. He is definitely getting the majority of the touches in Minnesota. And the Washington defense, hey, they beat the Cowboys fair and square last week. I ain't saying nothing. But DeMarco Murray still had a big game off them, even with the fumble. And McKinnon obviously is not going to have as big of a game as DeMarco Murray, but he's going to have decent numbers. I look for at least 100 all-purpose yards and a rushing touchdown. We'll move on to the wide receivers. I like Allen Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Martavius Bryant of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Dante Moncrief of the Indianapolis Colts. We're going with the rookies this week. Robinson has been very solid over the last month. As much as Blake Bortles is not a good quarterback just yet, Robinson is still getting you double-digit fantasy points every week for the last 4 weeks, and I look for that to continue this week. Cincinnati is pretty good in their secondary, but I still look for Robinson to get at least 5 receptions for over 80 receiving yards. Moving on to Martavius Bryant and Dante Moncrief. Hey, they were the big story last week, and I look for both of them to only continue lighting it up on the stat sheet from here on in. Bryant has overtaken Marcus Wheaton as the number 2 receiver for the Steelers, and you saw what Ben Roethlisberger can do with them as of last week against the Colts. Moncrief is going to continue getting more and more receptions and more looks as the season progresses. Reggie Wayne is probably going to play this week, but he wasn't exactly doing too much before he went down with this injury. And Hakeem Nicks is just about out of the picture in Indianapolis. So Moncrief is on the rise. He's a name to keep in mind at only 6,300. Get him while he's still a steal. Ditto with Bryant, also at 6,300. Moving on to the tight end, I like Tim Wright of the New England Patriots this week in what should be a shootout between the Patriots and the Broncos. You got Tim Wright at 5,800. Rob Gronkowski's obviously the lead tight end here, but it doesn't mean that Wright still isn't going to do anything. He's been utilized heavy over the last 3 weeks, and you got to like the point output. And in a game like this, with the improved secondary that Denver is bringing to the table, look for Belichick to go heavy on the 2 tight end sets, and look for Wright to get at least 5 receptions for at least 60 receiving yards and a touchdown. The special performances this week, we're going to go with Jeremy Hill of the Cincinnati Bengals and Stevie Johnson of the San Francisco 49ers. Hill is starting in place of Giovanni Bernard, who has all been but ruled out of Sunday's contest against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And just by saying that his opponent is the Jacksonville Jaguars means you could pencil him in for at least 100 all-purpose yards and probably 2 touchdowns. At 5,300, he is a steal, and you thank the gods that Bernard did not go out before they set the prices for these games. As for Stevie Johnson, at 5,700, he has still been heavily involved in the offense over the last month. Sometimes he's getting more looks than Crabtree and Vernon Davis. And even on games where he's not getting a lot of looks, he's still making the most of them. And against a weak St. Louis secondary, look for him to explode, as I said, for only $5,700. So once again, at quarterback, I like Eli Manning at 7,200 and Mike Glennon at 6,500. Running back, I like Jerick McKinnon at 6,300 and Denard Robinson at 6,700. At wide receiver, I like Allen Robinson at 6,500 and Martavius Bryant and Dante Moncrief both at 6,300. At tight end, you go with Tim Wright at 5,800. And the special performances this week, Jeremy Hill at 5,200 and Stevie Johnson at 5,700. Once again, thanks to everyone who subscribed to the YouTube channel Mike Ags 121. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at We Are SportsZone. Send us any questions and comments you may have. Thanks everyone for watching. For This is SportsZone, I am Mike Aglialoro. We'll see you next time, folks.